Texas Governor Greg Abbott is on a mission to prove that the state wastes way too much money, way too much of its resources on state police because he has decided to create a steel wall, as he's calling it, of vehicles to block the southern border. He tweets, Texas Department of Public Safety troopers and Texas National Guard are staunching the flow of illegal migrants trying to cross into the Del Rio region. More law enforcement and National Guard are added daily to secure the region from the potential influx of illegal immigrants. Now, this is following the awful imagery, the awful videos that we've shared with you of Haitian migrants essentially being abused by authorities, border patrol. They're on horseback. They're using reins to basically violently control these migrants. It's just incredibly awful, right? But instead of maybe taking a good hard look at the abusive treatment that's being carried out by our border patrol, you have right-wingers like Greg Abbott claiming that he's gonna take a leadership role in stopping the flow of undocumented immigrants into the country, which, by the way, isn't actually happening. There might be asylum seekers coming to our border looking for asylum. They ain't getting it. And Abbott knows that, conservatives know that. So let me show you some images of the vehicles that are creating this wall of cars at the border. As this tweet mentions, after Greg Abbott surged the Texas Department of Public Safety troopers into Del Rio, it appears that illegal migrants crossing at the river have come to a halt for now. DPS tells me hundreds of their troopers are now there to provide security and a physical deterrent. Yeah, because allegedly we had like thousands of migrants flowing into the country, and if it wasn't for Texas, nothing would have stopped it. I mean, it's just lies. It's nothing but full-blown lies, and I'll provide evidence for that in just a second. But a few more photos for you. Let's take a look at the next one. So that's what the scene looked like. One more photo for you. Yeah, I mean, could it be the actions of Greg Abbott that had an impact, or could it be the fact that tens of thousands of Haitian migrants are currently experiencing mass deportations by the Biden administration? I don't know. But one thing I do know is that Abbott is a coward who gets bullied by, right-wing nationalists like Tucker Carlson, who did bully him on his show just last night.
This has been going on for months, and we've asked Texas Governor Greg Abbott many times to come on this show to explain why he hasn't called the National Guard to seal the Texas border and protect the rest of us from this invasion. Greg Abbott has refused to come on repeatedly. So pretty soon, possibly tomorrow, we plan to invite his primary opponents on this show to describe what they would do if they ran Texas. That might be an interesting conversation. We'd like to give Governor Abbott one more chance to come on sincerely. Please, come on and tell us how you plan to save the rest of us from what is happening in your state.
And so Abbott, who's terrified about the fact that he's being primaried by people to the right of him, decided to do what he just did with the vehicles forming that wall. So Woz, I want to bring you in now to kind of discuss what's been going on, both with Governor Greg Abbott's actions, but also, just this thought process that we're seeing from the right wing. This claim that the Biden administration isn't being harsh enough in response to migrants seeking asylum. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we can say what we want about the right's feelings on immigration at the moment, right? It's funny because they've made a complete 180 on this thing. You can go back to George Bush, and that was a pretty pro-immigration regime, to where we have it now, where they're just straight up like, don't let anybody in. As cruel, as abhorrent, as racist, xenophobic, jingoistic, whatever you want to call it, as much as it is that, it's a unifying, coherent ideology as it pertains to immigration in this country. And so Greg Abbott is essentially, he's performing it. It's an act. It's a dog and pony show. To me, it's the rights equivalent of Nancy Pelosi kneeling in kente cloth, right? It's a signal to the right kinds of people that look, I believe that no immigrant should ever come here under any circumstances unless they're white. And so I'm gonna do these symbolic gestures. However, you can compare and contrast that with Joe Biden's immigration stance, ideology. What is it? Do we know? I have no idea. I wish they would come out and tell us, because it's definitely not a pro-immigration stance when these people are deporting refugees and migrants at a higher rate, faster pace than even Donald Trump did. So we don't even know what Joe Biden's stance on immigration is. Say what you want about the horrible sort of stances of the Republicans and the stupidity of Greg Abbott's wall of SUVs at the border. At least they know what they want and they know how they feel. What the heck is Uncle Joe doing?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's such a great point, because I have no doubt that the flow of asylum seekers reaching the southern border increased during the Biden administration because Biden campaigned on being a decent human being. He really differentiated himself from Donald Trump by saying, look, Donald Trump is awful. He's a bad guy. What he's, just like Corn Papa, he's a bad dude, right? But in regard to his actions, he completely reneged on what he claimed to be or who he claimed to be or what he was gonna carry out in regard to immigration. He just continued carrying out the brutal anti-immigrant policies of the Trump administration. And to your point, in terms of deportations, he's already outpaced the number from Donald Trump. I'll get to that in just a second, but here's some other specific examples of how Biden is not some friendly leader who welcomes migrants at the border. So that is not what's happening, okay? Biden has signaled that enforcing the border using technology and personnel remains a priority. So Biden did stop the construction that Trump had started at the border wall because it was mostly garbage and it wasn't really doing anything. So he's like, we're gonna stop wasting precious resources at building this nonsense wall. However, he made it abundantly clear that the money will be invested in drones and other surveillance technology meant to prevent migrants from crossing the border, okay? The Biden administration is preparing to nearly double the number of Haitians being deported to Haiti from Texas starting Wednesday of this week, it said, using an emergency provision of the US Public Health Code known as Title 42, the same thing that Trump did, by the way, which allows authorities to sidestep the usual immigration proceedings. Now, we have legal means for asylum seekers to enter the country. And what the implementation of Title 42 does is scrap that. Oh, there's a pandemic, what can we do? As a result, we're not allowing any asylum seekers in. Trump did that and Biden continued it. Let me give you more. And this is to what you were speaking about earlier, Woz. Great tweet by AJ Plus. President Biden is using Title 42 to expel asylum seekers without their right to hearings. Ex-President Trump invoked Title 42 citing COVID-19, but health experts say it has no medical basis. Per CNBC, it was used to expel 440,000 people under Trump and 690,000 people under Biden. So Woz, to your point, Biden might not vocally or rhetorically tell us what his immigration policies are, but actions speak louder than words. And for anyone who claims that Biden is any different than Donald Trump in regard to US brutality toward migrants at the border, they're lying to you, because this is another political identity issue. This is another culture war issue. And you think Republicans are gonna tell the truth? Now, Biden, by the way, they're politicians. You think politicians are gonna tell the truth? Biden should do with the migrant crisis what he did with pulling troops out of Afghanistan. He pulled the troops out of Afghanistan. Republican lawmakers cried about it. And then he did a press conference to tell them to kick rocks. And I loved it. That was strong. Do that with immigration. I feel like he's trying to straddle. He's trying to like somehow make progressives happy, even though like he hasn't actually carried out anything regarding immigration that would make progressives happy. But at the same time, he's incredibly brutal to migrants at the border, and he's never gonna get any credit from Republicans. So what is he doing?
Yeah, and guys people need to understand that Tucker Carlson and that crowd are gonna do what they do no matter what, right? Barry's a Muslim, terrorist, sympathizing, weirdo, Kenyan immigrant, cheater, didn't actually get the grades in Harvard, right? Hillary Clinton is raping kids at a pizza shop. Like no matter what, they're gonna tell the ridiculous lie. So they can't be the bellwether for what policy is. Like that can never be the case. And I said this on Wosny last night. It's not even just about the moral case, which is US policy has destroyed the country of Haiti hand in hand with the Haitian elite. They might have given the United States government or the CIA by proxy, probably gave tacit approval to that freaking coup where the president of the country was assassinated.
Yeah.
And so therefore now there is no government in that country, topped by natural disaster that rocked the countryside, leaving at least 2,000 people, if not more, dead, food insecurity, kids can't even go to school, you name it. The United States has had a hand in policy in Haiti going back decades, multiple decades. And so there's the moral argument to make there, but then there's just the empirical argument about what immigrants come in here and do. All they ever do is come in here and kick butt. They're our best citizens, our best people are immigrants. So we have the empirical data that shows that they do better in school, they commit less crimes, they're more upstanding citizens than the hayseeds out in the countryside, but whatever. Right? Like we have empirical data and the moral impetus, and yet Joe Biden, our great liberal president, can't even come out and stand up for these people.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun, but you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.